Hello, my name is Adrian, and today I've got a very special and exciting project for you. Today we're starting our August stained glass kits, and if you have been watching before, you know that we do our 4 kits each month. I believe this was April, May, I think, June, the July kit. We finished up with the Orca last, and now we are starting on the August kit today. So we are going to go ahead and get started here opening up our August kit. And if you have seen this before, welcome back. This is a part of our Stained Glass Mastery community where we share projects. We've got all the free patterns to all the panels and projects you see behind me. And of course, we've got video tutorials for each of the projects also. So we are going to go ahead and get started here today. So we've got the glass bubble wrapped here. And we've got hopefully our patterns in here somewhere. Like to put the cardboard and the styrofoam here to really hold everything safely during shipping. So these are our 4 glasses for this month's projects. So we've got kind of a lighter, streaky, tannish glass. And we've got a clear textured glass. We've got a kind of dark brown streaky glass. And we've got a lighter white gray streaky glass. So that is kind of our palette for this month. And hopefully they packed up my patterns here. Let's see what we've got. Aha, here they are. In between these 2 cardboards. All right. So today's project, we are doing, I believe, the acorns. And so these are our 4 projects for the month. We've got some acorns. Kind of barely see it. I might have to trace these out. Got our butterfly, a cat, and a beagle. So that is going to be a good set of projects for the month here. Hey, Bobby, thanks for joining. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our acorns for today. Now I am going to go ahead and get my apron on before we get too far along here. And we are going to want to trace out one of these patterns so that you can see it a little bit better on the camera here. And we've got a bunch of little acorns here. So that's a good sort of fall, I guess, kind of theme. And today we're going to be using the dark brown for the top, the little tops, and we're going to be using the kind of lighter tan for the bottom pieces. And we're probably going to put our little hook somewhere. Let's see where would be a good spot. Probably going to want to kind of hang it probably somewhere similar to up here, but I think around right here-ish, kind of near this joint will be the best spot. So we'll put a little hook, kind of that circles through right there. Hey, Mary Langworthy, thanks for joining us. Okay, so we've got these 2. Again, we have our dark brown and our light, kind of tannish glass. So these are going to be the main 2. And for the direction, you know, they kind of have this direction I think for the darker one, we're going to go like this, and the lighter one, we're going to go vertically. So we're going to do horizontally for all the dark pieces, and then vertically for the lighter pieces, kind of in line with that acorn shape. So we're going to go ahead and start placing our pieces here. So again, this is kind of vertically this way, so I'm going to follow that line. Trying to place them with as good of a yield as I can. Anytime you have these points, it can be a little bit tricky to try to get that to get a good yield, but we'll do our best here. Everybody doing all right today? Got another Sunday live stream. Appreciate seeing y'all again. Thanks for joining back up with us today. All right. And now we've got to place our tan pieces. And for this one, this gloss does have two sides here. I think we're going to keep it on the darker side. Kind of put it right over here. Keep that texture in the right orientation here. So I can already tell we're going to need our 1/4 inch grinding wheel for a few of these. All right, so we've got all of our pieces placed. I'm going to go ahead and grab our cutter. I like to use the pencil grip cutter. And we are going to separate these pieces from the rest of our glass here. Make sure we've got plenty of glass for the rest of the projects. And we do have some pretty fun projects coming up. There we go. Got our first piece separated here. Go ahead and tap that through. And we're going to go ahead and sweep off all the debris here. And what I like to do is to separate these pieces so we don't accidentally cut right into it. And this one's got some pretty tricky cuts, I think. We're going to see how everything goes. Get these all separated. So far, so good. And if you can, kind of double up one of your separation cuts with an actual cut onto one of the pieces, that is a little bonus for you. But our main priority right now is to get these pieces all separated so we don't accidentally cut right into each other. There we go. So we've got all of our pieces separated. Don't want to throw that one away. And we're going to go ahead and sweep this off, and then we are going to go through and finish scoring all of the pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and switch this over here to our free camera and get this a little bit of a better view of what we're doing here. So again, I'll just score right up against that vinyl template using that as a nice little guide. And I find that it works really well. And anytime you're doing these curves, you just swing that elbow of your cutting hand. That'll help you stay in line with the, that'll help you with that gentle curve as needed. If you're trying to do it all in your wrist, it's going to be pretty difficult. And anything we don't get perfectly, we can always clean up on the grinder, so it's not the end of the world. Doesn't have to be 100% perfect on your first try. I know mine definitely are not. Now this is going to be a bit of a tricky one. You see we've got this pretty deep inside curve here. So we're back at this inside curve. I'm probably going to do a few shallower ones, trying to get it as close as I can to it. We might end up having to just grinder that out because that's a pretty deep one. And we're just keeping the edge of that wheel right on the edge of that vinyl, close as we can get it. Kind of using that vinyl as a guide. You don't want to lean too much up against it. It'll, you won't be cutting the glass if you actually go onto the vinyl. But you can kind of just use it as a guide right on the edge there. And some of these are pretty complex little shapes. So you're going to probably want to definitely take your time with this one. Here's another pretty deep inside curve. I'm probably just going to grind that one out. I'll probably score it, but not with the intention of breaking it on the score, mostly just as a mark. Get this debris swept off. And as I push it through, I kind of push with my other hand, with my thumb. A couple fingers stabilizing the glass, the other kind of pushing with my thumb. And I do use a little bit of oil. I mean, I don't make using the oil a huge priority personally. It does help, especially if you don't have a really good sort of even pressure when you're pushing down on the glass. I kind of find that, especially for these copper foils, if you don't really get 100% of that oil off, that foil will not be sticking very well. So I try to use it kind of sparingly when I really need it. And I've been using this glass cutter for this tip for many years. So it's really not been an issue in my case. But by all means, if you're having a hard time kind of separating the pieces, then oil I do think helps a little bit. Got a few more pieces here. There we go. This is another one. I think I'm just going to try to get it with the grinder. Might score it, but only so I'll have that mark. Okay. So now we've got all of our pieces scored. We are going to go through with our Grosers. And we're going to use the mini and the regular Grosers. See, they're a little bit different width here. I'm going to start with the regular. And this one's a little bit seized up here. There we go. I think we can make that work. So now we're just going through breaking all these pieces apart. And this one I'm going to go ahead and actually do a secondary cut here because I don't want it to break right here. I want it to break this way. So I'm going to cut off a lot of this meat here. And then I think that'll make it just a little bit easier. Yeah. Gives me a lot more leverage to kind of pull right on the spot that I want to pull on. And I'll go ahead and grab the minis for this curve spot. There we go. And then this spot, I'll try to piece it out a little bit with the minis, but the vast majority I'm going to probably be grinding down because it's just a really kind of sharp inside curve there. And we're still holding on. No breaks yet. This one, the corner chipped off a little bit, but I think it's going to be okay. And we'll clean the rest of that up on the grinder. Got our first piece done. Second piece. And let's see, probably right here I might have to. Okay, good. Wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get that. I'm going to go ahead and grab the other grocers because this little point, I feel like it's going to poke me if I don't. If I'm not careful. There we go. We can clean the rest of that up on the grinder. And this one's got this really tiny point right here. I don't think we're going to be able to save that. It's going to be completely really covered in foil anyway. So it's not the end of the world if it chips off there, so that's fine. It's a tiny little thing that's going to be fully foiled anyway. There we go. Little pieces pop right off. We have a good pressure there. It's kind of in that initial score. And I'm going to go check something. I'll be right back here. Okay, and let's see here. Oops, I might have forgotten to score that spot. There we go. Coming up to this point, it's going to be a bit of a weak spot. What I might want to do here is I'm going to go ahead and remove all this debris. And then I'm going to cut this down in these two spots. It'll give me a little more leverage closer to the actual score line. And then I can just separate it kind of slowly but surely, just like that. Pop this one off, and then the same thing here. Trying to keep that point if we can, because that's going to be the little top of our acorn. We're going to want to go ahead and cut this down. So the same thing on this piece. Just like that. Just helps you get just a little bit closer. And if you're a little bit closer, you can, just like that. You have a little bit more leverage on it. So this is that one where we got that really deep inside radius. I think I'm going to give it a shot here. See if I can get it. I might be able to get a secondary try on this piece. We'll see. I'm going to take out this inside curve I did first, and then I'm going to chew this thing away until I get down to that score line I made. And if I can get to it, great. Oh, look, see there, it broke right through there. So that's kind of what we expected here. So if not, I've got a ton of extra glass if this piece is a little bit too big for that little piece, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and put this onto another. So this is probably going to be one of the harder pieces to do here. So we're definitely going to want to try to, probably going to need to grind that. Go. So let's see here. And what I'm going to probably try to do this time is get a few more inside cuts there. I only did one, and I think that was a mistake. I'm going to do a few more. It's just that real sharp spot right there. Now, you might be able to see, especially on this one, see I've got a few more scores in there. So I'm going to be able to kind of take it down in a few more levels compared to the last time. And then the other thing is that it broke. The other thing that's different about this time is that it broke this way, and I believe I had already broken the gloss off right here, so it's likely to break that way, but it's less likely now because there's a little bit more material. You know, all this material being here makes it a little bit stronger on that spot. So now maybe it'll break this way, if anywhere, but maybe it won't break at all because it's a little bit stronger. So let's see what happens now that, you know, I'm kind of doing it a little bit differently, and that might help you when you go to do yours. See that? And now that's a lot less to grind out right there. So that I am happy with. Now I'm going to go ahead and score the rest of this thing down. We'll call that a success. So try to do things a little bit differently if they kind of got messed up the first time. Now this one I'm going to probably cut it down right here because this one is likely to break like this. Cut that little tip off. So we want to avoid that if we can. So we'll break this part off first, and then we can just remove it down a little bit more. There we go, just like that. Kept that little tip of that acorn on there. There we go. Kind of trim these down a little bit. Get the rest of that on the grinder. Oh, okay. We'll see here. And we got our last piece here. this thing down. Go ahead and cut this one a little bit further, like that. And then we'll go through and lightly remove a few at a time. There we go. Okay, so we've got all of our pieces ready for grinding. So we are going to go ahead and bring out our grinder. And of course, let me move this around a little bit. I'll kind of move it right here while I do this. Okay, there we go. All right. And of course, we've got our little water bottle with our hole in it that we keep the little, so we can spray into our little sponge here. I just filled it up for the day. And we also have our little cup here as we grind pieces down. We can drop them into our cup, and then that will be a good place for us to, you know, it'll keep all that glass dust from drying on there. It'll be a lot easier to clean up. So we'll go ahead and get started grinding everything down. And I do have this little tool here that if you don't want to push on the edge where you could have some sharp glass with your fingers, you can kind of push it with this tool right here. Now my hands are pretty used to the edges of glass. Got some pretty tough little fingertips here. So I really don't have any problems with it. But if you're a little bit newer, then that could be something to consider. And these templates work out as a nice grinding template. We can just grind right down to it, and then we can see how well everything's going to fit. And I'm just going to go ahead and do one more pass without the template. We kind of have a lot of interlocking pieces here, and then I like to drop it in the cup. So we have a lot of interlocking pieces here, and if your pieces are a little bit smaller than the templates, they're probably going to match up a little bit better. I'm not talking a lot smaller, just a little bit smaller. One pass on the grinder should pretty much do it. And we've got this really tight radius in here. We're going to use the 1/4 inch grinder on top. There we go. And that's pretty much the right size. So we're going to take that piece off, take that vinyl off, just do one more pass in the grinder. Same thing up here. And then into the cup. Make sure this template is on there really good. Do one more pass. into the bucket. And we'll continue on here. And so last week we did do the orca, and I think that, to be honest with you, that's probably been one of my favorites that we've done so far. Done some pretty cool projects. I did like the Husky. The Husky was a cool project that we did. We've got a couple more animals coming up this month. We've got the beagle and the cat. So those will be pretty fun. There we go. Knock this down just a little bit more. And we are ready to do one more pass here. Into the cup. We'll shoot a little bit more water onto our sponge. So it needs a little bit more down here. There we go, got that just right. Into the cup. There we go. We'll do one more pass. Got a lot of pieces to fit together on this one. There we go. Got a few more pieces here. This one I missed the mark a little bit on. Putting a good bit of pressure. Moving quite a bit of material. And then we've got this one little divot in there. We're gonna 1/4-inch grinding bit really comes in handy. Really happy to get one of those in here. We'll take another round off. And into the cup. Got 3 more pieces here to do. There we go. All right, into the cup. And our last 2 pieces here are the tops of the acorns, the dark brown pieces. Got our last few here. All right, and on to our last piece here. All right, do one more pass here. And then into the cup. All right, so we've got all of our pieces right here in our glass bath. Just trying to keep that glass dust from really solidifying, and then it becomes a much bigger annoying issue to try to clean all that up. So, let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and move this just a little bit. Now we can check that out a little bit better. All right, so I'll just take my piece, and before we actually get started with the foiling, which would be the step after this, we are going to check all of the little fit, see how all the pieces fit, because we don't want anything, you know, to be obstructing us here. And Mary Beth just got her new 1/4-inch grinder bit just in time. Can't wait to use it for this project. It will come in handy, that's for sure. It definitely came in handy. Okay, got our first little piece on here. And there we go. one of the lighter sort of bottom parts of the acorn. Got another one here. And when we're cleaning these, I like to use a microfiber cloth, and I like to really clean up the edges. That is going to, be the most important spot because that's where the foil is going and that's where you're grinding. So that's where all that soot or whatever glass dust is going to build up at. So we're just really cleaning these up as well as we can. And our first darker brown piece as the tops of the acorn. And where did this piece? There we go. Right there. It looks like so far everything is fitting pretty well. At least on the pattern. We haven't put the pieces next to each other yet. But I think it's going to work out pretty well. So far so good. Let's see, where do you go? Right there. Everything all cleaned up. Oops. I think you go about right there. Perfect. And where do you go? Perfect. Yeah, it looks like we're all fitting very nicely so far. So that is nice to see. And these acorns will grow into a bunch of oak trees. I think this one goes about right there. All right, perfect. All right, good. Everything is looking pretty good so far. Won't have to worry about grinding or having to grind something down more or anything like that. We've got 3 more pieces in our glass bath here. Our last 3. So far it's not too bad, this project. Broke 1 piece. I think it was this one right here. Has that really big inside curve. But we kind of just recut that. And it wasn't too bad the second round. If you got that 1/4 inch grinding bit, I think you're going to be all right. All right, there we go. And, oops. There we are. Just make sure everything fits together pretty nicely. Make sure I don't need to do any sort of grinding or anything like that. I think overall we're looking pretty good here. So we've got all of our little acorns right here. Very good. Okay. So with that then, we are going to go ahead and break out our foiler here. Let's see here. Put this water away from me. I sort of had the urge to drink it. This little cup. Don't want to drink that grinder water. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get this thing. We'll get a new area all pulled out. And we will get going here. So we can get you a good view right here. So you can have an idea of what is going on here. There we go. Okay, so just do a little check, make sure there's no glass dust on there. Open the lever, stick it into the foil here. Just pull that foil through. When you get to these corners, they can be a little bit troublesome. Sometimes you have to kind of pull it out. Keep your finger on that foil underneath it, just to keep it from tearing. And then you can pull it back on through, just like that. And we'll pull it out at the stop-start point. Snip a little piece off. Go back through, overlap it. Fold it over. There you have it. That's our first piece foiled here. And then this magnifoiler, it comes with a FID, and I've been really liking using it. And there we have it. First piece foiled. Go ahead and put this aside for burnishing. We'll continue on. Just open the lever, let the piece drop in. Rotate this thing on that little bearing in there. And just bring it around. Overlap the start-stop point, snip that down. We'll just fold everything over, fold it up to the corner. So zip it up to the corner and then fold it down back over where you just zipped up from. And there you have it. Oops. A little bit of a, might have to get the little FID for that little spot where we had this kind of sharp curve here. Where did I put that FID? I think it fell down here. Here it is. I thought it fell. Okay. So I like to just kind of use it to push it into these places where my fingers are kind of hard for them to get to. Same thing on this side. Just fold it down. Put it down for burnishing and continue on. So I have been starting to like this magnifoiler a little bit more, especially as I've kind of gotten a little bit more used to it. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit easy to set up, or pretty much no setup, this could be a decent option for you. Makes pretty good quick work of the foiling here. Really centers it up nicely. There we go. Another piece. There we go. Using the black backing today. This is pretty much opaque gloss, except for that brown gloss does have a little bit of transparency to it. And so we are going to be patinaing this black. That's kind of just what I normally like to do. I think it just gives it a little bit of a better finished look personally. In this case, if you were not going to patina it black, you're going to patina some other color, you could do that. The only thing is that, you know, the black will not stick out compared to like a copper backing finish. That copper backing finish is so reflective and shiny that you will probably see it. So even if you were going to do, let's say, a copper patina, you may even still want to do a black backing because it's just gonna sort of hide that it even has one on there. It's going to be the least, the least obvious, or it's going to show the least of all the backing finishes, especially because it's looking through a brownish glass which has a tint compared to like a clear gloss. The clear gloss, you'll be able, if you're going to use a silver, or if you're going to leave your solder that silver finish, you're going to want that silver backing, especially for that clear glass because you can see right through it. Even on the silver finish solder, you may not want to use that silver backing because with this brown glass, it changes the tint through the glass. So you may want to still use a black backing even if you are planning to use something like like leaving your solder that silver finish. And we're making pretty good progress here. Got about 3 more pieces to foil here, and then on to the burnishing. Whenever we get these curves like this, if it's a little bit deep like this one is, I like to take the FID and just kind of slowly work it down instead of using my finger, if I can remember to do it. And I think it helps a little bit, kind of gradually stretching it to try to reduce any of those little cuts and tears in it. And of course we'll go back and burnish that one down. little bit of an overlap. Oops. Hand started to cramp there for a second. There we go. And we've got one more little tiny piece here. This one might be a little bit small for the magnifoiler, we'll see. I might even cut some of this foil down to make sure we have a little bit of glass exposed. Yeah, I think I'll cut it down at least a tiny bit. Because we are very covered. One side is not too over covered. I'll probably cut the other side down pretty similar, like this side. So we'll look at what that looks like in a second here. I'm going to set the foiler aside for now. We'll go ahead and get to the burnishing. So I'll always burnish the edge first. Try to push out any sort of air pockets in that area out to the sides. And then from the face, we will try to push them out from up underneath the foil. So we'll just push this down into the center. Just like that. And then after we burnish this one, we're going to cut this down a little bit. We'll go ahead and look on the close camera over here. Got some stuff in the way. So we're going to want to cut this down probably right through the center of that. We're going to cut that down all the sides. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the, I'm going to re-burnish this a little bit here. Oops, we have a little bit of an injury here. I'm going to have to do a little repair. I'll just pull out a little piece of this foil, snip it down. Just going to do a small overlay right here. Snip that off. Burnish it and then trim it down with the blade, X-Acto blade. There we go. All right, and now that once each piece is burnished, I can go ahead and get it onto our little pattern here. And pretty much we'll be ready to solder after that. So we'll hit the edges first. Then down the face. Oops, had a little injury right here. I'm going to overlay another piece right there. Go ahead and burnish that. And then trim it to size. Alrighty. And let's see, where does this piece go? There you are. Might back this up just a little bit. I think it might be a little bit too close. There we go. Okay. And we'll continue on here. And as you go along, you want to try not to press too hard. Just hard enough to really smooth that foil, adhere it to the edge. And then flip it over, do the same. Pretty simple step, this one. Just takes a little bit of time, trying to really make sure to do a good job here, because the solder, you know, the appearance of it will be largely dependent on how well smoothed out this foil was. So you're just going to want to really take your time with it. Especially when it gets kind of scrunched up at the curves, the outside curves. Really take your time in those spots. So far everything seems to be fitting really well with the little foil on. Because the foil, it adds a tiny bit of sort of width and height around each of the pieces. I mean, it adds just a tiny bit. You know, we're talking about the thickness of the foil. And when you have a bunch of pieces together, you know, it could be a problem. You know, especially on a bigger panel. When, you know, you might get out to the edge of it and say, uh-oh. But, you know, so you're going to want to try to probably cut your pieces. You know, that's why I did an extra round of grinding around each piece. And that just knocked it down enough to where it fits perfectly within all the other pieces. So that's what you want. Nothing too crazy. You know, one pass on the grinder is pretty much what I'm saying is one pass on the grinder is pretty much the thickness of the foil when you add it up between, you know, because you have foil on both pieces that adjoin each other, but you also grind both pieces that adjoin each other. So it's about the thickness of the foil, just one kind of light pass on the grinder, and it's just enough to keep that that nice, perfect fitting between each piece. And we're going to see how everything fits here in just a few moments as we continue on with our burnishing. There we go. Liking the colors for this acorn, the darker brown and the kind of lighter tan. Kind of reminds me of those big oak tree acorns. Got a few pretty big oaks in our yard. Make a little bit of a mess every fall. But they are very nice to look at. Big piece right here. Got about 4 more pieces left for the burnishing here. And then it's time to solder. I find this burnishing tool works especially well on the smooth glasses. Everything is just fitting together really well. Really happy with it so far. Oops, that one. Oh, that one goes somewhere else. Let's see. I think that one goes straight here. Like this. There we are. Some of the shapes are pretty similar in size. You're going to pay attention to which one goes where. And our last piece here. And we're going to want to trim this start-stop point to be a little bit of a smoother transition. There we go. Got it. And that's our last piece. And it should go right there. All right. Now we're just going to fit everything together. We'll take a quick look on the free camera, see everything fits. All right. Go ahead and turn the grinder to on. And we got everything fitting together quite well here. We're going to put our little hook right here. And so that's kind of what we're working with right now. Let's go ahead and grab our fume extractor. Move some stuff out of the way, make a little more space here. There we go. Don't need a lot of these tools anymore. Let's see, you're going to need some flux. We're going to want to get our solder. Going to get some wire. We'll keep the lead dikes out. Get our wire brush. Let's see. Go ahead and get our gloves on here. Let's see here. Okay. I'll go ahead and get my heat-resistant glove on my left hand since I'll be needing it soon anyway. Go ahead and test our little iron out, see how we're doing. Still heating up. I'll let that do its thing for a moment. Okay, let's see here. Got a little bit of solder right here and another little bit right here. Go ahead and use these two pieces up first. Go ahead and get this thing tinned up. And we're going to want to put a little bit of flux on the joints here to get it started. Oops. Have to move this back to the right spot. There we go. Just getting this all tacked together. I'll move my vinyl template out of the way. There we go. Oops. And then we'll get a good bit of flux onto here. All right. Keep this right next to our little fume extractor. I'm gonna put it on kind of heavy. We can get this all tinned. And we're gonna come back and do a little bit of a nicer bead here, but we can, if we can do a nice bead to start, we might as well. But it's not our main objective on this first run here, because it is gonna probably get a little bit messed up from the backside when we heat that side up. So after we finish the edge beading, we'll come back and touch this side up. Make sure it's really looking the way that we want it to. There we go. We'll go through and tin all the faces here on the perimeter. And then we'll go back through when we edge bead, we'll have a nice surface to meet up against. There we go. Go ahead and flip this over. Do the same thing on this side. We'll get it all flexed up. Keep it nice and close to that extractor. And for this side, we are going to try to do a nice bead. And what makes it look nicer is when it's got a nice rounded look to it. You don't want it to look flat or sunken in. You just want it to look nice and rounded. And it's ideal to keep it in a wet edge to a wet edge. That'll kind of give you the best look. right, we'll tin the faces here. And we'll let it cool for a second, then we're going to do a few touch-ups on this side. Because when it gets a little bit too hot, it's kind of hard to get it to act the way you want. Sometimes you have to let it cool just a little bit. Okay, so we're going to go back over any of these pretty rough spots here. Try to kind of melt them into a joint, an adjacent joint. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and do the edge beading. So I am going to do all of the, going to flux everything and then go back through with the iron here. And Mary asks if I'm using the lead-free solder. I believe I ran out of the lead-free solder. I think this is actually a 50-50 solder that I'm using. I should probably be using a 60-40, but I'm using a 50-50 right now. And the 60-40 is a little bit runnier compared to the 50-50. You know, it has a lower melting point, so it's a little bit easier to work with. So I happen to have a little bit of 50-50 on me, so that's what I've been using here. But I do want to get back to the lead-free. I just kind of ran out and have been forgetting to get myself another roll. This area is pretty much... This is where I'm going to put the little wire after I finish edge beading here. And this is really a must to have some of these gloves for this part because it, you know, the heat resistant gloves, because it gets hot holding these little panels and you can drip a little solder. If you drip it on the black part, it will just kind of roll off. If you drip it onto the fabric part, orange part here, it will be a big problem. You know, it can kind of dip in between all the fabrics and then kind of sit right there on the top of your skin. In this case, I'm wearing the blue gloves underneath, but even still, it'll burn your skin right through that too. Has happened to me before. So you're going to really be careful here. Try to keep the droplets away from your hands. And I believe we're pretty much good here. So I'm going to, first of all, get some of these little pieces off of here. And would I consider this a beginner project? Probably not too much because there are quite a few kind of curves and stuff. I would say if there's a project with more straight pieces, it's going to be a little bit easier. But these projects with a lot of curves and really sharp point stuff like that, I think are a little bit harder personally. Not to say a beginner couldn't do it, I just think that it would take a little bit more time than, let's just say, a piece with all straight lines. Flatten that out a little bit. Okay, and we'll just try to finish this off here. And we are going to also go ahead and put our little hook. We're going to put it right there. So let's grab our little wire here, snip off a piece. Now on this part, let's see, I'm going to want it to kind of be something that's going to fit in there well. Something like that. And then we're going to just do one spin here. Oops. Having a hard time holding this little thing. Okay. We're going to kind of pull that tight there, and then we're going to try to really... There we go. I think something like this will work good. Let's see. You know what, I think we are going to want to do a few more spins on here. I might even grab my croziers to hold on to this thing, because my gloves are a little bit too slippery. See if it'll work like this. I think that should do. Yeah, then I can kind of fit it right here along this line. There we go. And yeah, so we'll grab that with the croziers and then submerge it. Put a little bit of flux onto it. We're just going to submerge it into the solder that is existing already. There we go. Perfect. Right there is exactly where we want it. Let's heat this up, let it conduct into that solder. Melts the solder down. Let's see. Just keep on keeping it there. The longer you hold it, the more heat will conduct. Might have to reposition it a little bit. Hold it, hold it, hold it. There we go. There we go. I'm going to lift straight up. And that's pretty well submerged in there. I'm just going to kind of tack it into a few more places. And then it will be immovable from that point. I'm going to probably drop this down just a little bit further, kind of be in line with the glass. And then I'll flux it up. See if I can just bridge that gap and really solidify that right exactly where I want it. And that is a very strong connection. And we're just going to cover up that right there. There we go. So that's the back side. We'll go back to the front side, And we're going to want to kind of touch this thing up a little bit here and there. I think I'm going to add a little bit extra right here inside there, inside that little cavity. Just try to smooth it out. There we go, just like that. And we're just going to review this side to make sure everything looks good. A few things here and there I kind of just want to touch up. But overall, the soldering we are pretty much done with. We're going to go ahead and apply some patina, clean this up. And that's about it for today's project. I like how the little acorns turned out. Go ahead and turn this. Oh, actually, let me get a few more spots here. Little spot right there. Make sure we have a nice. There we go. Go ahead and get this. Turn that off. Grab our patina. And we are ready to start the finishing process here. Get our flux out of the way. Get our little rag here. I'm going to go ahead and tear off a piece. Let's see if I can get this thing. All right. All right, got it. Thought this shirt was going to get the best of me right here live on stream. All right. There we go, just a little piece. And we are just going to really kind of put a good amount on here. Really get that patina on there. Really darken that solder up. Go ahead and do both sides here. Do all the edges, the wire, everything. Get it all really nice, heavily drenched there. Let that patina do its reaction. And Bobby, fun project. We don't have acorns near us, so I wasn't sure I'd like it, but you won me over. Thanks. Up in Montana, probably got some pine cones, I'm guessing, something like that. Glad you like it, Mary Beth. I'm sorry, Mary Langworthy. Got a few little things to clean up here. Get my X-Acto blade. Sometimes you get these little solder droplets. And then they really stick out when you patina. All right, and that's pretty much it for today. I'm going to go ahead and grab a little clean rag here. Get our Windex out, clean everything up. And that is about it for today. I hope that everybody enjoyed it. This is the first week of the August kits. And we are going to also want to go through and let's go ahead and look through our other projects that we've got going on this this month, so that you can check out what kind of stuff we are in for. So here is the Beagle. Go ahead and get this traced out so you can see a little bit better on the camera there. Now they like to go woo 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 woo. So this is that's a fun project. Got our little Beagle going on. And let's see, we've got a cat here. That's going to be another fun animal project. There we go. So that's the cat coming up. And then we've got the butterfly. And I don't believe that we have done a butterfly yet on this channel. So that'll be a first. We have done a cat. We have done another dog. And now we'll do a butterfly. So those are the 3 projects for August that are left. But of course, this was our first week of August, so I hope that you enjoyed it and the acorns here. And we hope to see you again next week. If you haven't already, check out the free Stained Glass Mastery community, where we have all the free patterns for all the projects you see behind me. Video guide, tutorials, free resources, a great community of other like-minded stained glass artists to ask questions, share projects. And so I hope to see you there. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.